presented by Wiggins Farms, sweet and juicy slices of heaven from Texas. This is the Fresh CrEd, recorded at the 2025 IFPA Foodservice Conference in Monterey, California. Today, how to lead in produce where quality meets value. From his first job behind a Central Market cheese counter to directing West Coast sourcing for Topco, Peter Beaullieu shares a career shaped by food, data, and servant leadership, leading by serving people first. We talk about co-ops, the quality-value intersection, and why storytelling matters just as much as the numbers. Stick with us for lessons in leadership, consumer trends, and team development. Peter Beaullieu, Topco. Let's get into it.
Welcome, folks. We are here at the Foodservice Conference. Thank you for joining the Fresh CrEd. We've just been joined by Mr. Peter Beaullieu.
Hi.
From Topco.
Yes.
Peter, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
We were talking here a little bit before we started recording, but obviously a beautiful day in Monterey.
Always in Monterey.
Great place to be in the summertime.
Oh, yeah.
Do you live, I know you've lived in Texas, but do you live in Texas now or do you live here in California?
So when I took the position with Topco, I relocated out to the Central Valley. So I'm living in lovely Visalia, the bustling metropolis of.
I know Visalia.
Little bit more rural than Dallas, but it's nice being out in California for sure.
Yeah, well, it's a little cooler here in Monterey than it is in the Central Valley.
Absolutely.
But still, having lived in Texas, yourself and myself living in Texas now, I could handle that heat all day long. So I drove up this week from SoCal, the back way through Tehachapi way, right? And then into Bakersfield for a meeting, and then Fresno, and then worked my way up. And there were a lot of folks sweating and hot, but for me it felt pretty nice. I mean, just how dry it is, I guess. The humidity in South Texas is oppressive.
Exactly. No humidity and no mosquitoes, so I don't mind a little dry heat without those factors. California is besting Texas for sure.
You're director of sourcing at Topco West Coast produce, right?
Right.
How long's that been?
About 11 months now.
Oh, wow. So almost a year. And you've lived here the entire time, or just the move was?
The move came about 3 months after I took the position. I needed time to get my house ready, get it on the market, and get it sold, which happened within 10 hours of listing, luckily. So that was easy.
And that was in Dallas?
In Dallas, yes.
Yeah. Doesn't surprise me.
I got really lucky and hit it right at the right time.
Yeah. But you grew up where?
I grew up in San Antonio, and after I took a job with Fresh Point, which is where my produce career started, I had to move to Austin for that, so still pretty close to home and close to my family. And I spent about 5 years in Austin, and after that, Fresh Point asked me to move to San Antonio. They put in a new facility there and wanted somebody from the Austin regime to keep an eye on things. Was there for a while, worked my way up, and ended up at Fresh Point Dallas for 7 or 8 years before I left to go to a different position, and I ended up as director of merchandising in Dallas. So, sort of how it went in a nutshell.
A lot of moving around Texas.
A little bit. But I like that I lived in almost every major Texas city. I wouldn't want to live in Houston, so I'm glad I didn't end up there.
We just had that conversation in an earlier interview. It's tough.
The mecca of humidity.
It is tough, and I don't know what the percentages are, but South Texas, the Rio Grande Valley, McAllen, I mean, it's subtropical. I joke that's where, when birds fly south for the winter, it's where they go, literally. We have parrots lining the power lines in the wintertime. So there's a birding center, a World Birding Center, huge place where people come from all over the world to observe birds if you're into that.
Very cool.
Which is pretty neat. I've never actually been. I probably should. But it's very humid. Yeah, it's very tough. But we have a coastal breeze almost every day of the year. I don't get the same sense from Houston. Maybe because it's there's so much man-made materials and construction and homes that you just don't get that kind of same breeze that even 60 miles inland in McAllen you get from the coast.
Yeah, there are a lot of other factors for sure.
So you're out in California now. Could you see yourself long term, like fast forward to your retirement party? Is it in California?
I hope so.
Yeah?
Yep. My goal would be to retire on the coast in California, either down further south near LA or up here near Monterey, Carmel area. I love it. One of my favorite parts of the world. Perfect weather all of the time. Of course, that comes at a price, so I've got to get to work if I want to realize my goal, but that's where I see myself.
It comes at a hefty price, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Every time we come here, and whether it's been for the food service show or the organic show, if money, a lot of sentences start with, if money wasn't an object.
Oh, yeah.
If money wasn't an object, I'd have a house here, and I've had a house in Lake Tahoe, and I'd have a house.
Right.
There's a few choice towns that I really enjoyed in my life around the country. Charleston, South Carolina is one. I love Savannah, Georgia. Of course, two very hot places again. There's several locations in Colorado that I love. I mean, that would be nice. So we either need to hit the lottery or get to work, I guess is what you're saying.
Definitely. One of the two.
How about hobbies? Anything hobby-wise that you think our listeners would find interesting?
I enjoy the typical things, but one of the things I enjoy about being in California is I can be outdoors a lot more, and it's not miserable. So I enjoy hiking and outdoor photography. I love fine dining and trying new restaurants. I like to stay on top of food trends, so I go to the LA area quite a bit to go to the new places there, and it's so nice to be able to eat outside pretty much all year long. I really enjoy that. I'm into travel. People hate vacationing with me because I always go see different supermarkets.
Yeah.
Now having been on the retail side for about 7 years, I get into merchandising and things like that, and I'm always taking pictures of produce departments. So vacationing with me is probably annoying, but if you're into food and into supermarkets, then you'll love it. So I love to travel a ton. My big vacation this year was France for 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
I spent a week on the Côte d'Azur in the south of France and stayed in Nice, and then went to all the little coastal towns and ate my way through them, and then a week in Paris and did just about the same.
Were you ready to come home?
No.
Really?
No. I could have stayed. I speak just enough French to where I could probably finish learning it enough to live there.
Really?
Yeah. Was
it your first time?
No, I've been to Paris before, but I had never been.
Was it for the Olympics?
No, I wish. A friend of mine went to the Olympics, and she had a really just world-class time.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Tons of cool merchandising. I love shopping for cooking, or the idea of it anyway, in France, because you have your little specialty shops for everything. You go to the cheese shop, the butcher, the bakery, and then they have the little produce stand. And I think that's neat that everybody's so niche and specialized, and all the food is so clean and good.
Well, to that point, you spent some time at Central Market. Speaking of niche, specialized, great store to shop at.
Definitely.
I don't live in San Antonio, but I'm in San Antonio a lot, and I have a cooler that I take with me when I'm traveling.
You and other people who don't live in a city with a Central Market, for sure.
It's what did somebody call it? The destination shopping?
Destination shopping, experiential shopping.
Yeah, I definitely do. And
it is a top 3 or top 5 tourist destination in Texas, oddly. A grocery store. Yeah.
Huh.
We
It's
did a
interesting.
little research. It is.
Well, you get hooked on certain things. Inevitably, anytime there's a demo, and I try it, it's something that then I figure out I can't live without.
Absolutely.
And that's the demo doing its job, right?
Absolutely.
There's an olive oil that releases during the holidays, and I've been gifting that now for the last 5 years. Instead of giving people a bottle of wine, I give a bottle of olive oil.
I love that, and that's a delicious olive oil.
It is great, yeah. So I wind up, I think last year we bought 5 cases.
Wow.
Yeah, and it goes fast, I know.
Oh yeah, you have to get it when it first arrives or it's gone.
Yeah, so at that store in San Antonio, there's a partner there. She's the olive oil expert. She also turned me on to an olive oil it's a French olive oil. She said that it was Julia Child's favorite olive oil, so that's now my favorite. It's really good.
Awesome. Funnily enough, my first job was at that San Antonio Central Market in the cheese department.
Oh, really?
And I really got into learning about all of the different cheeses, and I would take a few, when I first started, I would take a few cheese names home and research them on my own time just to learn the story behind them. I love, and I guess that's where I learned to love the story of the producer of anything, because there's always, an interesting story behind how this cheese came to be, or whatever. And people would come, and if I wasn't there to recommend their cheeses, they would not buy cheese that day. And
That's a lot of pressure.
you mentioning olive oil reminded me of this. Tommy Lee Jones's wife used to come and buy cheese from me.
No way. I love Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah, he's a cool dude. Well, anyway, one day he came into the store to find me. He's like, "My wife sent you to buy cheese, or sent me to buy cheese from you." I said, "Oh, okay, cool. What's the occasion? I know what she usually likes." And I picked out some cheeses, and then he asked me to help him pick out an olive oil. So we walked over and got him some good olive oil.
That's awesome.
Yeah, pretty funny. Welcome to San Antonio.
That's interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You never knew who you're going to run into, and you wouldn't think, to your point, you're just making me think, like I lived in Las Vegas, and of course, if you went to the airport, particularly pre-9/11, where you could literally go to the gate and wait for your party to show up, you would see a ton of different people. But San Antonio, I've had some pretty interesting run-ins as well. Yeah. Some good, some not so good.
Austin too. I mean, you never know who you'll see in Austin.
Yeah. Well, I know who I would want to see, but I've never ran into him. All right.
He would be a cool dude to run into.
So that was your time in San Antonio. Now you're at Topco, and day to day for you, your focus, what you spend most of your time doing, I guess, just for the folks that are listening, to get a kind of an idea of what your area of responsibilities are.
So essentially showing value for our membership, leveraging the volume of the membership. I really love the co-op concept, and working for a co-op is rewarding to me. I'm helping smaller to medium-sized regional businesses that are not huge conglomerates succeed and thrive in an ever more competitive market, and still be able to make a living from it. So I really like that. So I try to make my focus and the focus of my people value driven. Everything we do needs to be in the path of showing value. So and everybody sort of has a different, I call it the quality value intersection, where value and quality meet.
I like that.
I think so too, and it's important to make sure you hit that. And so we tailor make solutions for our members. We, I cannot talk today, please edit that out. We aggregate as much volume as we can into, the different buckets of spec within all of the items, but obviously the more we can leverage, the more value we can show. And that's fun. And this role, I'm really doing a lot more of what I love, which is people development. I love help growing people in their careers. I've had a lot of success with that in the past, and hope to have a lot more at Topco. We've already made a few moves in the office, and I think they're working out really well and are going to give some folks a lot of upward mobility.
That's great to hear. It's interesting. I was having this conversation not too long ago with somebody, and we're talking about career paths and mobility within organizations, et cetera. And I think a lot of times people think they want to be people managers until they are.
Right.
And there's a special skill set of folks and passion that actually want to manage other people, or actually that's what motivates them or gets them up out of bed, so to speak. And not everybody's wired that way.
No, I would agree. And to do well at it, you really have to want to do it, and you have to just have that, whatever it is, that trait in your character that lends yourself to that. I look at it as part of servant leadership, which I definitely consider myself a servant leader. It's just important once you have some success in your career. I think it's really nice to help others do the same.
Sure.
And it's incumbent upon us to do so as leaders.
Would you say that a people manager, people leader would struggle, or in your, I guess, case, for example, as an individual contributor, or can you do both? Or can you be good at both? Can you be passionate about both?
Yes and no to all of those. I think it depends on the project. Being a people leader, it's nice to have some leeway in terms of being more involved in certain things and less, depending upon how important it is to me and what value I think it's going to bring to the organization. Obviously, I focus my efforts in what I think will yield the most results, right? And I pay less attention to things that are good, but aren't going to move the business forward in a meaningful way, but will make a difference in some other place. But yes, I can be good at both. I do love producing something on my own and having the end result of the execution be what was desired or better. And I also love
Bringing people along for the ride.
Bringing people along for the ride. And
Yeah.
as I lead, I try to think, how can I motivate these folks? And my answer is always just keep them just curious enough to follow me along for the ride, to follow me down the trail of the unknown. So
That's a great philosophy.
try to be a little unpredictable and have some outside the box thinking and creative solutions for the different challenges that arise in everyday business.
So there's some data to be had, right?
Of course.
I think you've described yourself as a data nerd.
I thrive on data, yes.
Yeah. How has that changed, or what do you see? What are you excited about as far as data is concerned? Maybe technology. Of course, AI is something that we're all talking about. Anything in particular that kind of sparks your interest, or that you think is transformative?
The more data-driven we become, and I had this conversation at dinner last night. I was with kind of the two guards, the old guard and the new guard that worked at a company, and the old guard, a lot of industry knowledge, a lot of connections, a lot of personality, charisma. The younger guard, very data-driven, still very outgoing, doesn't know the industry as well, doesn't have connections, but together they make an excellent team because you have the relationships guy that's kind of taking the new guard and bringing that aspect to it, and then vice versa, the new guard informing the old guard with the data behind what they're trying to solve for, or how they're trying to help a customer, or whatever the end result is. But data
personal interest is not always as pragmatic as we would like to think it is, right?
True.
So for whatever reason, if you can't get beyond a certain selling point or a certain barrier or obstacle, I think if you're completely data driven, then there's no reason why you can figure that person would not take action, for example, when there are other components. There's the X factor, or the variable, or the unsolvable variable.
Right.
So that's interesting. That's an interesting perspective.
I also think it's really important to make sure the data tells a story and not just throw a page of numbers up on a PowerPoint slide. Really, have the supporting data, but also make sure that you tell the story with it.
Yeah, that's important too. Not everybody can do that.
Right.
A lot of folks can wrangle the numbers.
Right.
But telling the story, that's also an interesting, perspective. I early in my career, I did not distinguish the difference between finance and accounting, and working for a larger company for many years now. Obviously, I've learned long ago there's a big difference. And that's where finance comes in. Which
Definitely.
Is very, very interesting work, and why it's so easy to see that a lot of folks that carve a career path working for large financial institutions or auditing firms are able to fast track their organization so well because they basically learn every aspect of the business
Right.
In one shot.
Absolutely.
And are able to shorten that learning curve and that time span that otherwise would take you jumping around from position to position before gathering all that knowledge. So Yeah, it definitely makes sense.
For
Kind
sure.
of like a reason why a lot of attorneys are in politics.
Right.
Being out here on the West Coast, I would say a huge driver of organic, locally sourced, those types of trends. Has that topped out, in your opinion, or is there still room for those categories?
I think both. I think it has topped out, but I think that's because organizations that do the marketing of that and the selling of that have not done a very good job of telling the story. Going back to my cheese shop days, understanding the story behind something that sort of applies to every area of my life. And now I want to know the story behind the grower. And obviously, there are different consumers that have different preferences. And I think that if chains that sold all of these things did a better job of telling the story and calling out why it's special, there's more room to grow. And I think it's important. That's, to me, generally the most flavorful, most nutrient-dense food is that's not mass-produced. Not to say that commercially grown produce is not, but to get a homegrown tomato, there's just no comparison to going and grabbing a greenhouse tomato that's been gas ripened. So there's always going to be that consumer that wants that next level and
Sure.
is willing to pay for it and seek it out. But I think that if supermarkets don't call it out as special and unique and tell why it's special, attribute it, that has topped out.
What about the perception of those special items being a luxury? In other words, as not a deterrent, but perhaps not helping the average consumer, perhaps, that has a more limited budget, assuming that item would be above the non-organic or non-specialty or non-locally grown. Do you think that those two are getting closer to intersecting? In other words, that might not be as big of a challenge as it once was? I mean, if I remember being a young parent, for example, like now, I've said it before, I'm pretty confident I can go to the grocery store and fill a basket and can pay for it. When my kids were young and we were first married, my wife and I remember tallying what I was putting in my basket in my head because I had a certain amount of money to spend,
Sure.
and that was it. So that for me now, being able to buy whatever I want is a luxury. I mean, it
Absolutely.
really shouldn't be, but
It
I
shouldn't
think about
be.
it all the time.
I agree. I think, with inflation coming into play right after COVID, and we haven't really gone back to where things were during or pre-COVID, I think that the gap between, a traditional item at a supermarket and something locally produced and niche is narrowing, and I think it is more accessible. And people are doing more with farmers markets, and they're getting bigger and bigger and more. So I think, yes, that gap is narrowing, and I think those things are looking more attractive to other folks as the more conventionally produced items grow more and more expensive.
I'm assuming it would be natural, but I have to imagine with social media in particular, there are more folks that track down the information to know who grew their produce, where it was grown. I mean, I guess that's where I was going with the whole. It seemed like a luxury at one point, like to feel like I'm just lucky to have something to eat versus needing to know where it came from. There's a huge gap between those two.
Oh, you're right about that, and definitely in the information age, people do want to know where their food comes from, and people do want to know the story. To my point, and if we tell that story, I think that the smaller growers will have a lot more success, and there's no ceiling for growth, tons of room for growth. But yes, it is a luxury to go from, okay, I've got enough money to pay for this cart, to I can now scan a QR code and see who harvested my berries and what field they came from. It's wild. And by the way, you can add a coupon to the QR code as a retailer now. So I mean, things are it's getting wilder every day with how much access people have to information and how robust the information is.
Definitely. We're coming up on our time, but I wanted to ask you one more thing before I let you go. I noticed on your experience that you had served on a food bank board.
Yes.
So first of all, how about the quality of produce at food banks these days? I've been in that particular food bank, and of course it should be, right? I'm not suggesting that food banks shouldn't have any less, but they're getting some great product, in my opinion.
They are getting some great product. I think a lot of that has to do with the general public's perception of what quality is. Quality isn't always appearance. There is a ton of produce out there that is perfectly fresh, edible, flavorful, nutritious, that maybe doesn't look the best, but you can use it just as you would, a number one or grade A product. So I think that has a lot to do with it, and the hesitance of retailers to merchandise that number two product. And a lot of it goes to food service, but they can't take all of it.
And sometimes food service requirements are even stricter, right? Like from a quality
Depending
perspective.
on what's
the
going
item.
on. If it's not an ingredient item, absolutely. If it's going on a plate in its whole form, definitely.
Yeah. I didn't realize I toured around with a friend who bought watermelons for food service, and I didn't realize it was such a thing. I mean, overnighting samples and
Oh yeah. We want to taste everything before I won't buy from somebody new unless I've tried their crop.
Wow.
It's important, especially working at such a prestigious banner like Central Market. I felt that I was a steward of flavor and a steward of experience. So it was really important to me to make sure that I knew for sure what I was procuring was going to surprise and delight the shopper.
Sure. That's what makes it fun.
Absolutely.
Well, Peter, I mean, our time flew by. I actually still have more notes, so we'll have to be a TBD and to be continued, actually. Hopefully you'll be up for it in the future, but
Of
we
course.
definitely appreciate you coming by. I know your time's limited here.
No problem.
It's still early enough in the day to see the show, but definitely appreciate you coming by.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Nice talking with you.
That's Peter Beaullieu. Data, flavor, and leadership, no fluff. Before we go, 3 quick takeaways. Co-ops create leverage and opportunity for regional retailers. Data only matters if you can tell the story behind it. Servant leadership, putting people first, grows both teams and organizations. Thanks, Peter. Presented by Wiggins Farms. Series support: Wiggins Farms, IFPA, Little Bear Produce, Missionero, Sunfed, Bourne Farms, and the International Fresh Produce Association. Follow and share this series.